As Marcia mentioned, I'm a research analyst on Messari's protocol research team. Today we'll be speaking about the state of rollups. So going to take us back in time to the emergence of rollups, how we got to where we are today, and some of the biggest problem spaces facing the rollup sector today. So all the way back in 2020, we had some of the first layer 2 rollups launch on testnet. Some of those included Optimism, Arbitrum, ZK Sync, and Vitalik here, as you see on screen, finalized this rollup-centric Ethereum roadmap meant to scale Ethereum. Now in 2021, we had the first rollups launch on Mainnet. So these included Optimism, Arbitrum, ImmutableX, ZK Sync, Metis, Starknet, kind of the first batch of layer 2s that launched. Users were very excited to interact with the Ethereum ecosystem in a much cheaper, more efficient manner. Now, in 2022, we saw some tech stacks emerge. So, namely the OP stack, as well as Arbitrum's Arbitrum Nitro stack. And these tech stacks were meant to provide an open source way for developers to create their own blockchains. Make it easier for them to spin one up. Historically, it's taken a lot of development, effort, and energy to create a blockchain, but these tech stacks were meant to make that process a lot easier. And with those stacks, we saw the emergence of this superchain idea, first announced by Optimism. Now, this idea was trying to create a network of rollups or layer 2s that were all interconnected, be that through shared governance, shared sequencers, shared grant programs, incentives, really a community and a shared ecosystem of layer 2 rollups that were enabled by each of these respective tech stacks. Now, in 2023, we saw the modularization of these layer 2 rollups. So, of course, in 2021, that was first seen by the execution side of things. On those rollups, we saw transactions being ordered, processed, and executed outside of Ethereum. And that enabled transaction bundling, made things a lot cheaper for users. And in 2023, we saw additional tech stacks. You see at the bottom there, the Polygon Chain Development Kit, as well as the ZK stack, Starknet stack. So you're seeing these layer 2 ecosystems start to emerge and the further modularization of these blockchains. So in the middle there, you see Celestia. 2023 is when we saw the first external data availability layer. So that further compounded, making usage of these layer 2s even cheaper, and just provided an extra option for developers when they were creating these blockchains. They didn't have to use Ethereum for data availability, but we're now seeing more options in the modularization space that just increase the design space as well as make things cheaper when interacting on these blockchains. And the 3 logos to the right there, we also saw in 2023 the emergence of rollup-as-a-service providers, or RaaS. Conduit, Caldera, Gelato, some of the first ones to come to market. And these really made it easy for developers to use these tech stacks, but in an even more seamless manner, just making the process super easy for anyone to spin up their own blockchain and customize it using a different tech stack, different block times, different gas tokens, all these different things that were enabled by these RaaS providers. And in the chart here, you can see the percentage share of layer 2, percentage share of Ethereum transactions across both Ethereum as well as layer 2s. So at the bottom left there, 2022, Ethereum made up 80% of all the Ethereum or EVM transactions. And you see some of the layer 2s took up that 20%. And then over the following years, consistently, the share of transactions happening on Ethereum has been decreasing. So we're now in 2024, and that percentage is all the way down to 20 or 10%. So the original vision of scaling Ethereum and kind of outsourcing the execution of all these transactions has been successful in shifting that towards all these different layer 2s that are coming out. And then going into 2024, modular is here. You can see on the chart here the number of chains with at least $1 million in TVL. So this has consistently been up and to the right. There's more and more chains launching. The design space for developers is wide open and increasing. And blockchains are kind of becoming websites where it's very easy to spin one up. The process has been made super simple, and the customization is constantly increasing so that developers can really customize their blockchain for their specific use case. But with that, there's been some issues. So one of the biggest problems in this increasing, this growing sector, so many different rollups are coming out, and there's been a fragmentation in both the user side and the liquidity side. So users and liquidity are split across all these different rollups. You can see in the chart here, a little bit hard to see, but on the right there's a lot of different colors, a lot of different chains that are taking up users, taking up liquidity, and this has created kind of a fragmented experience across the rollup sector. But there's lots of projects that are working to solve this fragmentation. So I believe strongly in the next year or 2 years, users will be able to have a very seamless experience when interacting with all these different chains. So kind of bringing the experience back together and abstracting away, using separate blockchains or having funds on separate blockchains, and that's enabled through a variety of different means. Master accounts, account abstraction, so having one single place to look at all your different funds, doesn't matter what chain they're on. There's also different proving mechanisms coming online to prove the state of different networks, so that could enable some composability benefits. Shared sequencing or super builders is another one, different messaging platforms, intents and solvers. So without going in depth into all these different solutions, there's a lot of them that are coming online, and I believe in the next year or two, users will have all this abstracted away from them, where if they want to transact cross-chain or use an application across chains, they won't know what chain they're on, where their funds are at. They will be able to use these different interoperability solutions, and through aggregation and things like that, this will be abstracted away from the experience. And lastly here, governance and decentralization. So Vitalik has recently said that he's only going to be talking about rollups that are in stage 1 of decentralization. So Arbitrum and OP Mainnet have been some of the first ones to reach stage 1 of decentralization. And what that means is there's proving mechanisms that prove the state of the chain. So kind of a check and balance on some of these centralized entities that are running sequencers, as well as having the ability to exit a network irrespective of a centralized sequencer, for example. And we're going to see that throughout 2024 and then into 2025. The list here, we're going to see a lot more stage 1 and working towards stage 2 of decentralization. And that is where we're at in 2025.